Unlike Huntington's disease, most autosomal dominant disorders are not fully penetrant, and we can do something about it. The commonest referral now for a genetic clinic is people at risk of inherited cancer, and the next two clips relate to people who have been referred because of a risk of developing colon cancer. Selina, Dominic, it's nice to meet you. My name is John Byrne. I'm a consultant in clinical genetics. Can I start by asking you how you got here? Who sent you to the clinic?
We've been referred here by starts off with the doctor, obviously, because I've had a problem with my colon, and it's obviously looking like it might be something genetic. I don't know anything about it.
So they suggested you came along to see us. Okay, well, that's absolutely true, because the colonoscopy that you had done found that the reason you were passing blood in your motion was that you had lots of polyps in the wall of the colon. These are like little lumps that grow on the wall, and they can bleed and cause the symptoms that you had. But a lot of people have occasional ones of those, but you've got several hundred of them. And the reason for that is that you have a spelling mistake in a gene. Now, I know from the family history sheet that you sent in that, in fact, you are adopted, so you know nothing about your family. Do you know anything about why you were adopted?
Not really. I know very little about it.
Do you know if either of your parents died young?
I know that my father died young, but I don't know anything more than that.
The reason I'm asking that is that, and the reason that we're very keen to get you into the hospital, is because these polyps can become cancerous. And so very often, the first time we find out about this is when people present at a very young age with a colon cancer. And obviously it's possible that your father actually had this condition, because it does run in families, which is obviously the reason that...
How possible is it? Is that...
Well, in a sense, it doesn't really matter enormously, because we can't easily track back to your family at this stage, because I know you were not from this area from the information you gave us, so it may be very difficult to get back to look into that, but we should try, because it's just possible that there are other family members further afield that we could contact. But I'm more interested at this stage in thinking about you and your own family. So this is what we call a dominant trait. I just need to explain that to you, because it's important to understand how it runs in families. But before I do, the important thing to say that you've already been told, I know, by the colorectal surgeons, is that the good news is that this is a treatable condition, that we found it in you before it's turned into a cancer in any of these polyps. And the great thing about the colon is it's something we can kind of do without. In evolutionary terms, we needed a colon because we used to eat lots of seeds and berries and probably needed it as an extra way of digesting food. But you can actually take out a whole length of the intestine and recreate, if you like, the rectum with a folded back piece of small intestine. And people can get very good outcomes from that, where effectively on the outside they look the same as anybody else. They sometimes go to the toilet a bit more frequently, but not dramatically so. And so there's a good chance that this can be dealt with very effectively.
So can I just it's not that you're going to remove the polyps, it's that you're going to remove an entire section.
That's right. The reason for that is that taking polyps out carries a small risk of perforation if you do a lot of them.
Right.
And the question is whether we can get them all. I mean, there are thousands of them there. And so the danger is, if we leave in the colon, that you might develop a cancer in one of the polyps that's left behind. And so that's something for you to talk to your surgeon about. Sometimes the surgeons do just take out the big polyps, but by and large they prefer to take out the whole colon.
So if it transpires that I did get this from my dad, does that mean when children come along that's...
Yeah, and in fact almost it doesn't really matter whether you got it from your dad or it started with you as a copying mistake. The fact is that you have in your body a spelling mistake in a gene called the APC gene. And that's why you have this problem. Now, we'll do some blood work to find the underlying spelling mistake in that gene. We don't always find it, but hopefully we will. And that will offer us some tests for the future. But let me just explain how it runs in families. I'm just going to go back a step. Everybody, you've heard of genes that we inherit from our mums and dads that determine all the physical things about us, how many arms and legs we have, what colour our eyes are, and everything else. almost all of our genes come in matching pairs. So you get a copy from mum and a copy from dad. Now, what we know is that you've got a spelling mistake in one copy of the APC gene. So you've got one working copy of the gene and one with a spelling mistake. You can get by on the one working copy, but as your cells divide in the colon, they have to copy the genes as well. Every time you make a new lining cell, you have to make a new copy of the genes. And so now and again you'll make a mistake, and you can create a second copying mistake. So if that's in your colon, where every cell in your colon, every one of those millions of cells, only has one working copy, there's a very high risk of one of those cells losing the other copy, and that then starts the process to make a polyp and then going on towards a cancer. So the reason that you have these polyps is that you started with only one working copy of this gene. I might get a polyp just the same, but I'd have to lose both copies of the gene in the same cell for that to happen, and that's very much rarer and tends to happen much later in life.
So it's nothing to do with diet in any way?
It's probably influenced a little bit by what you eat as to how much these polyps develop, and we've done some research on that, but it doesn't seem like it's very easy to control the development of the polyps. Basically, they will come through to a greater or lesser extent, typically in your teens, and they become very obvious by the time you're into your 20s, as you are now. Now, the thing is that you've got, if you think about it, a 50-50 chance. So you've got one working copy of the gene in every cell of your body and one with a spelling mistake. It's a 50-50 chance whether you pass on the one that works or the one that doesn't. So on average, half your children would get the working copy and half the faulty copy of the gene. Now that's something that if we find the spelling mistake in the gene by testing your blood, we would be able to offer you a test during pregnancy. On the other hand, this is a treatable condition, and you've grown up into adulthood and managed with it, and we've got lots of families where several people are affected by this and have been treated.
So it's not that on doing the test, and let's say that we discover that the faulty gene has been passed, there's nothing we can do about it.
Sure. So you might just say, well, we'll take the chance, it's 50-50 chance, but we can check the baby after the baby's born.
Essentially so that we can get a plan of action as soon as the baby's born to get the correct diet and the correct treatment.
And
ASAP.
Basically the truth is we don't need to test the baby straight after birth, because in the first few years of life you treat the baby just the same, and there's lots of debate about whether we leave the testing until later, and I would go with you to some extent on that. It's if we find a spelling mistake in the gene, we could test the baby to see if the baby's inherited that, so we know to be prepared for checkups being introduced when they reach just before they reach their teens. But some people decide to wait until the baby's 9 or 10, then do the test, and then do the checkups if they need it. But that's something we can discuss down the line. But the important thing, you understand why this is a 50-50 chance.
Yeah.